Episode 11. We're live, baby. Episode 11, MMA Gossip. Thank you guys for being with us. As per usual, follow us on all our socials at MMA X Gossip on Instagram, Twitter, Gmail. If you're watching this, we're on YouTube. So as usual, like, subscribe, comment, whatever helps the boys out. And that's right. That's it, boys. This one we'll be talking about UFC on ESPN 10. We'll be recapping UFC 250, which was a banger. And that's about it.
All right. Yeah, we'll get right into it because, as you probably know, this upcoming Saturday's card is a little bit shitty, for lack of a better term. But we'll get right back into the recap. First, we had Herbert Burns versus Evan Dunham, and Burns submitted Dunham in the first round via rear naked choke. What do you think, Matt?
Started my night off quick and easy, just as I expected. It's exactly what I thought was going to happen. Whether it was on the feet or on the ground, I expected Burns by finish.
Yeah, I mean, I can't really add to that. That's exactly how I saw it going. That's exactly what happened. That was always going to happen. The odds reflected it. And the brothers are back-to-back, the Burns brothers, back-to-back fights, back-to-back W's.
Yeah, that might be the only time in MMA history where a fighter won on the last week's card and his brother was the first card on the upcoming week's card and won back-to-back. So that's pretty cool. So anyway, Herbert Burns did exactly what he was supposed to do. Evan Dunham proved why he should have never came out of retirement. And on to the next one. We had Alonzo Menefield shitting the bed as a huge favorite against Devin Clark, loses a 3-round decision. What do you say, Matt?
I mean, every time that Devin Clark wins a fight, doesn't it look like that? Grinding up against the cage for 15 minutes while you're just slowly losing it. I had 3 parlays out the window immediately. But I think we all kind of knew that if Menefield didn't knock him out early, he'd get dragged into that fight, and it's not his world. And everyone saw that. It was very visible. Down to you, Chris.
I mean, dude, I thought Menefield was going to knock him out early. Fun fact, Clark was one of 2 – I think Clark and Assunção were the only transports to the hospital, and that's in a win. So, I mean, Menefield clearly has that power. I thought he was going to finish it in the first round. He had him, but I lost. Like Matt said, lost a bunch of parlays. That was the ultimate killer. I think I put $100. I was drunk, but I put $100 in. I did $10 parlays, just like all random. I think 4 of them I lost second fight of the night, and I was like, that is just super.
Yeah, I mean, the Brown Bear just continues to do what everybody just thinks that he can't do. He just either wins by grinding decision or he gets clipped and looks like crap. So best believe I'm going to be trying to fade him, from here on out because I just don't think he's anything special. Menefield, get your cardio up, man. You looked green. You looked new. You looked inexperienced. It was not a good look. But up next, I was wrong again. This is when I went up 1-2 on the night. Jussier Formiga loses in the first round via leg kicks, and it was hard to watch. Matt.
First time, and I think his first time back-to-back weeks, there was a finish by leg kicks. I actually had Formiga in all my parlays, so much so that I hedged with Perez. So I wasn't that mad over the fight. I mean, Perez looked really good. Like, he outclassed him quick and easy, and I'm excited to see what they do with him next. And you're slowly starting to see a trend with Formiga. I think he's lose-win-lose right now, right? The last 3? If I'm correct, yeah. So he's getting towards that gatekeeper status as opposed to there was a point where he was always right on the edge of fighting for the title. So we'll see what's up next for both of them. But I wasn't too surprised at the outcome. I just saw some plus odds and figured I'd throw it in a couple parlays to see what happened. Chris?
See, I went against my word on this one. I was on the last podcast. I was so heavily on Alex Perez, but I was also under the impression that he was the underdog, right? I'm still confused. I think that I thought he was the underdog, but I was so high on him, and everything I said on the last episode came true on his part. And then when I realized that Formiga was the underdog, I went with Formiga. But honestly, like Matt just said, I think that Formiga is already gatekeeper status, elite gatekeeper status. He's still right up there. He's still at the top of the division, but he's going to be the guy, where if you beat him, it's like, okay, you might be up next for a title shot. I'm not saying Alex Perez is, but I'm just saying that that's the level where I see Formiga now. I don't see him going up anywhere, especially being 35 years old. I think his last run is already out of him, and that's kind of all you're going to get from him.
Yeah, prior to this fight, I wouldn't have called him a gatekeeper. He was on a 2-fight skid. He lost to Moreno, and prior to that, I think he got knocked out by Benavidez. But at this point, I think he 100%. You're right. He's a gatekeeper at this point. It sucks because like I was pretty high on him prior to the Perez loss, but he looked bad. So props to Perez, and up and onwards for him. Next up, I was actually right for once. When Charles Byrd proved why I thought he was fraud all along, and Maki Pitolo, who's apparently undefeated at 185, but when he cuts to 170, he's a piece of shit. He fought Charles Byrd, and at the end of the round 2, he knocked him out, and he folded like he does in almost every fight. So props to Pitolo. What do you think, Matt?
Dude, was it just me, or was that just a really weird finish? Like, I didn't even see him like get hurt, and all of a sudden he was folded up, just getting pounded to the back of the head. I'm like, did he just give up? But anyway, to this point, I was down a lot. Like, immediately, I lost this one, and I thought I was in for a long night. Things turned around quick, but I now know to never, ever, ever put my faith in Charles Byrd ever again. Like, he didn't look good at all. I don't know, Chris.
Fuck Charles Byrd, dude. No, I'm half kidding, but dude, it's just like, what are you doing, bud? I mean, after McIntola, he lost to Callum Potter, right? I was just like, goodbye. Like, that's all I needed to see. But now that Charles Byrd, I gave him the benefit of the doubt because of the competition. Like, losing to Edmund Shabazian's not terrible, but I think that's a 3-fight skid now, and they're all finishes, right? So, I mean, I think he's 1-3 in the UFC now, 2-3 if you count his Contender Series fight. That's not a good look. I don't know where he goes from here, but he'd look really, really good in Bellator. So,
just gonna say hello, Scott Coker. Nice to meet you.
Yeah. I mean, I just stood by the notion that Pitolo hits hard and Byrd folds. I mean, like you said, Matt, it was a weird finish, but like that's happened to Byrd before. He's been hit with a shot, and you're just like, did he just get TKO'd by that shot? Like that shot? So like I wasn't completely surprised, but I mean, I don't have much stock in Pitolo either. I just think Byrd had a worse performance. But onwards to we all picked this one correct, and props to Cody coming out when his brother passed away the week prior, but he put on like a top-notch unanimous decision over Brian Kelleher, who's always game. A lot of props to him. What do you think, Matt?
That was it was a great fight. He looked awesome. I needed that because I absolutely hammered Cody. At this point in the night, I was like, all right, let's make it all back, start over, and that's exactly what happened. But it was really hard to watch him at the end, like just breaking down because of his brother. And that's what you want. You want him to win that fight, control his emotions, and just let it all out once the fight's over. It was good to see. I'm excited to see what comes for him next. But, God bless him and his family. I think his best interest right now, maybe he's a dog and he wants to get back out there. But, hopefully he takes some time, goes home, collects himself with his family, and just lays low for a bit, because it was harsh after that scene. That I felt really bad. I was like, this sucks. Like, this isn't even a week old for him, and he put on that kind of performance. It really showed where his head was. Really impressed, but props to him, and hopefully, if he rebounds quick and we see what's up next. Chris?
Yeah, man, that was an awesome performance. That's kind of exactly we were all right on that fight. That's kind of exactly how I saw that one kind of going. The MMA gods got this one right. They made up for Walt Harris, and they just got this one right. Like, I don't want to sound mean, like, I'm half kidding, but they were right on that one. And yeah, Kelleher, he just fought a couple times. Maybe he takes a little time too. Like you were saying, Stamen takes a little time. Kelleher just fought twice in like no time at all, 3 times maybe in no time at all. So Kelleher, after a decision like that, and he was super respectful. I think the way Kelleher played it was awesome. But I think both of them take a little time off, obviously for different reasons, but that was a good fight, and that's kind of just how we saw it going.
Yeah, I mean, you can't take anything away from Stamen, but Kelleher, he's still up there, so he looked good. He put it on in the 3rd round when it kind of looked like Cody was just kind of, he was cruising to a decision, so he kind of took his foot off the gas pedal. But props to him for letting his emotions out after the fight and not during the fight, because that could have been, proven to be detrimental to him. Or it could have been the other way, could have knocked Kelleher out with whatever kind of emotion fuels him. But, take some time, rest up, heal up emotionally, mentally, and we'll see him back. No problem. Up next, we had Matt's victory over me and Chris. He picked Ian Heinisch, and he knocked out Gerald Meerschaert in a weird KO in the first round. Matt.
Yo, he smoked him. I didn't see the fight ending that quick in that way, but I wasn't complaining at this point. I needed a quick and easy victory and just to chill out for a bit. But, that we've seen that happen to Meerschaert before. Heinisch can crack. We know his gas tank isn't the greatest. So for him to do that early and get me that quick W, I was not complaining. And that was one of two locks. We'll get to the second one later. Chris?
Yeah, that was – yeah, I mean, I lost that one quick. Just like who else fought? What other fighters? Like Herbert Burns, I won quick. This one I lost quick. But, yeah, like Matt said, we saw this from Meerschaert before. We'll see it from Meerschaert again. Heinisch looked really good. He finally, he got the train back on the tracks, and I think he's fighting Brendan Allen again real soon. So he's getting right back into it, and I think that's going to be a banger. That's going to be a good fight. I cannot wait to see that fight. I think I already know who Mike's picking. I think I should point this way if I got to point at Mike. But, yeah, that's going to be a good fight. He's right back on it, so right back on the horse.
I'm very glad you said that, Chris, because when that line opens, when Brendan Allen versus Ian Heinisch comes out, whatever the odds are, put it on Allen, man. I'm so high on this kid. He just walked through Tom Breeze at a plus 130, man. He's legit, man. His grappling reminds me of like really tight grappling, like Ray Borg, or maybe even like the Western guy that everyone's super high on that needs camo shorts in the UFC. Bryce Mitchell, everyone's high on him. He reminds me of that like grinding style. So like I'm pumped to see that fight, and I'm gonna be fading Ian Heinisch in that for sure. Up next, we had Chase Hooper loses a 3-round decision, a lopsided one, to ruin I don't know how many people's parlays, how many people's bets, and Alex Caceres proves he's a vet, and his 16-12 record is somehow still climbing. What do you think?
Real quick, I'm seconding you on that Brendan Allen. Whatever the line is, putting everything on it. Anyway, I think Chase Hooper even knows how many parlays he screwed, because I don't know who saw his Instagram story, but he called out everyone that was gunning him for losing him so much money. I think that's fucked up, just because at the end of the day, he's the one in that octagon. He's the one fighting for his life. And, I'm the biggest offender of ripping guys apart when they lose me money. I'm like, fuck you, fuck you, fuck you. But, like, I've done it before, but I stopped doing it. But yeah, anyway, I think we all said last week that we were all picking Hooper, but we had a weird feeling about the fight because we saw against Tamer what happens when he can't get the fight to the ground right away. And against him, I don't think he got the fight to the ground at all, if I'm correct. I think he got him up against the cage a couple times, was able to like half take his back, but couldn't fully get there. Caceres just kept shrugging him off, beating him up on the feet, and it's very visible he needs improvement on the feet. What do you think, Chris?
So I have a few. I'm gonna kind of go off on this one. So let me talk about the fight first. So Chase Hooper stopped pulling guard. The thing is, he's 20 years old. So I said he was my lock of the night. The reason being, Alex Caceres sucks. He's barely hanging on to his UFC contract. He's hanging on to his UFC contract to fight guys like Chase Hooper, where if you beat him, it's like, okay, you're 20 years old and you just beat a hardened UFC vet. You know what I mean? Just get that name and that, like I said on the last podcast, 15 minutes of experience in the octagon against a UFC veteran under your belt. I keep getting mad at myself when I pick people like Chase Hooper to win. Chase Hooper is super duper green. He's 20 years old, and he's growing up in front of our eyes in the UFC. Like, he's goofy looking, the curly hair, super skinny, and he's funny because he's like a little kid. But someone like that shouldn't be in the UFC. I'm not saying he can't win the UFC because he clearly has already, but in his Contender Series fight, he's getting beat up. I think, did he catch a submission at the end, or maybe a TKO at the end of the third round? And Daniel Tamer does the same thing. Basically, he got caught, he got hit hard, and then just pulls out a submission. But when you fight better guys, that's going to stop happening very quickly. And Alex Caceres, who's a vet, that was a big jump in competition in hindsight. And I always get mad at myself when I pick someone like Chase Hooper against someone with that type of experience, someone so green versus someone with so much experience. Whereas, like, Sean O'Malley fighting Eddie Wineland, there's a much smaller gap, obviously, Sean O'Malley, has shown us everything on why we should bet on him and why he should have been such a heavy favorite. Where Chase Hooper has had 2 fights and he's gotten tagged by low-level competition and beat on before catching a submission. Where in the 3rd round, pulling guard against Alex Caceres is like, dude, like very, very low-level wrestling, very, very low-level striking. He's good once the fight gets to the mat, but if you can't get it there, then you got nothing. So I think he's got to go back to the drawing board, fight lower-level competition, and I'm not saying leave the UFC, obviously, but now he's here. It's kind of the Sage Northcutt issue where he's super duper green, but he's got that look. So they want to push him, but take a couple steps back, you know?
Yeah, I'm glad you said that about being mad at yourself, because I was mad at myself. Like, I felt like I should have known that like Chase Hooper had a significant chance to lose this fight, and I just lost out on like, a couple of parlays. I had Chase Hooper at -145 before he jumped up to like -220, something absurd like that. So like, yeah, I was mad at myself too about that as well. Back to the drawing board, give him someone that way lower on the totem pole and work your way back up, man, because he needs a ton of work.
But where do you go from there with him? Because I really can't think of a fighter on the roster, specifically at that weight class, where he's going to get away with his style. Like when you're trying to pull guard at any point in a fight where you're shirtless, you're no gi without a rash guard, you're sweaty, like it almost doesn't work. Like he's got to find another way to get the fight to the ground, or he's got to impose some type of striking that puts fear in his opponent. And right now, even from Tamer to this fight, I don't see enough of an improvement anywhere where I'd say, all right, he can fight this guy, win, and get him back on the board. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but I don't know. If you guys seriously, like, can you think of anyone off the top of your head you'd be like, all right, he could probably take him, unless you want him to fight Tamer again?
I mean, off the top of my head, no. But I'm sure Dana White and the matchmakers would sit down and be like, listen, we still want to put stock in this kid. We still like this kid.
Yeah.
Find them somebody. But then it's still up to Chase Hooper to get that W, and it's not going to come easy, especially if the striking is that low level, man. I mean, there's like newcomers coming into UFC, it seems like a daily basis that have better striker than him, man. And so, like, I don't see him necessarily being much of a success story, man. Caceres really exposed him more so than the other people. And we already knew his striking was bad. So, like, what do you think, Chris?
That's what I was saying. Like, I'm not saying, oh, you got to get rid of Chase Hooper. He's just, he's still a prospect. He's still got a lot of eyes on him. He's only 20 years old. So he has so much time to get better. Like I saw, for example, Ben Askren tweeted at him and was like, oh, I might, like, my son needs to learn some wrestling. And he's like, oh, I would love to learn wrestling from you. The fact that right after the fight, he's already down to just learn, get better, that shows me that he's really, he's willing to do that, which is exactly what he needs to do. If he could go out to Ben Askren, I don't know where Chase Hooper trains. I'm sure it's like one of the small camps, but if he went to a bigger camp, I'm not saying change camps just because he lost one fight, but getting those rounds in with UFC level athletes is gonna only make him better. But yeah, he's got to really work on that striking and wrestling, because pulling guard is not going to work in the UFC. So I think, like you said, matchmakers got some work to do with him.
He fights out of He fights. I actually was looking it up as you were saying that, because I was curious. He fights out of Combat Sports and Fitness. I've never heard of that.
There you go.
Yeah, if I'm him, like the jiu-jitsu's there. Like maybe you go meet up with Mark Henry for a little bit and get your striking up. Come out to Jersey, train.
And being at such a young age, he's going to grow leaps and bounds every time he steps in the octagon. Especially if he has the right people around him and the work ethic that we think that he has. Yeah. He's going to grow. Like, look at Sean O'Malley back when he was in the Contender Series, and look at him now, like a totally different person. That's because he's so young, and there's so much room to grow at that level. And like I said, if you surround yourself with the people that you need to be successful, you'll grow faster than someone, let's say, who's like 30 years old and he's like, now he finally hit the right camp, but he's not going to grow in 5 years the same amount as Chase Hooper's going to grow from 20 to 25, if that makes sense. But on to the next one, on to all of us. We're so pumped about this one, obviously. Sugar Sean O'Malley took Eddie Wineland's soul at the end of the first round because Eddie Wineland's hands are down by his waist, knocks his ass out, and proves why he should have been that -500 favorite, which he was. Matt.
I know you always call me the hype master, Mike. Choo-choo, baby, because I am all aboard the Sean O'Malley train. All aboard. I don't want to see him against anybody top 5 yet. I don't want to rush him. granted, Chris, by the way, you said who did you say was taken to the hospital, and you didn't mention Eddie Wineland's name? He didn't have to go to the hospital after that knockout?
I believe it was a Sunsao and Clark were the two transports. I think that's what Dana said in his post-fight interview.
That's crazy because he was stoned, dude. Like, but he's so legit, and we've seen him win in so many different ways already. Granted, not the best competition, but I think he's being brought along perfectly. Get another step up next. I do not want to see him rush as marketable as he is. He's all over the streaming. He's everywhere. Don't rush it. Be patient. His time will come. Let this kid grow into his own. Chris, what do you think?
I am so high on Sean O'Malley now. And the thing is, so like we haven't seen it in the octagon yet. Obviously his striking is insane. Rumor on the street is he has insane jiu-jitsu. Who did he submit? Was it Takanori? It wasn't Gomi. Who was it? I think in one of those competitions.
It was Gomi.
It was the Fireball Kid. I think it was.
It was. Okay, so he's got really good jiu-jitsu, which I know. We haven't seen his wrestling, but I'd like to see his next fight be against, I'm trying to think right now. He's not ranked yet, O'Malley, but he's got to be right there, right? He's got to be on the cusp. And I'm trying to think who he could fight. Someone with much better wrestling than they have striking. Like this, again, they're clearly trying to push Sean O'Malley. It's not a secret here. But I'd like to see him – I want to see his takedown defense – wrestling and grappling, just keep the fight on the feet. I'm not saying he's got to go into a wrestling match and win a 3-round decision with using his wrestling, but keep the fight on the feet and then get a late, second, third round knockout. I'd like to see that and see how durable he really is. The Conor McGregor thing where he never fought a wrestler and then he fought Chad Mendes, was on his back for 2 rounds. Let's see if Sean O'Malley can weather that storm, and then you can push him into the top 10 and top 15. Because right now at bantamweight, it's like 1 through 10 is insane. So I want to see. They know what they're doing. They're, like Matt said, they're pushing Sean O'Malley perfectly. And to go back to this fight, I think that knockout was literally clean as fuck. But I think that he had Wineland kind of hurt already a little bit. He threw that spin kick kind of before that, and Wineland kind of came out and just got tagged with the straight right, and all she wrote.
Yeah.
Actually, sorry to cut you off, Mike, real quick. Sean O'Malley did break the rankings this week. He's 15. Just checked. So there you go.
So, read off 15 through 10.
I got you. 1 second. Bantamweight. Marlon, Aljo, Jan, Sandhagen, Cody, who jumped up 4 spots. Jose Aldo, who's fighting for the belt. Pedro Munoz, Sunsao, Jimmy Rivera, Stamen, Rob Font, Dominic Cruz. I could actually see him fighting Rob Font next. John Dodson, Yadong, and O'Malley. I think Rob Font would, if they want to continue to really push him against a guy that's going to stand and bang, Rob Font isn't a bad fight next for him at all.
No, I
like that call.
I like Font. That's a great fight. I just gotta say that hit was so clean, man. If you watch the tape, he parried, he did a fake. He feinted with that uppercut, and then Wineland put his hand down to parry it, and then he just came over the top, cracked him, and it's just so beautiful, man. And he says it himself. I have the best striking in mixed martial arts. He says it with a stoic face. I have the best striking in mixed martial arts. He's the man. Chris, go ahead.
He needs a main event fight in his next fight, by the way. He has to be a main event. If he's not the main event, it should be a big pay-per-view when he's the co-main. You know what I mean? But he really needs not that he needs a push, but dude, let's put it this way. If Jessica I and Cynthia Calvillo can headline a card, Sean O'Malley can fucking headline a card.
100%. Yeah, I would like to see him tee off on Sung Yadong because I think he lost his last 2 fights. Let that happen.
Yeah, I also want to see justice for Marlon Vera, who keeps, if you see him on Twitter, he just wants to fight so bad, and I feel for him on that, man. He's a warrior. He's a definition of a UFC mixed martial arts warrior, and I love that kid. But let's hop on through this card. We got Neil Magny soundly beat Anthony Rocco Martin. I have to say, Rocco looked kind of slow, tired, a step behind, and I don't know if that's a credit to Magny because I really don't think he's anything special, even though he's on a 2-fight win streak, impressive ones at that. But what do you think, Matt?
I mean, it was a Neil Magny fight. He kind of felt him out I thought he lost the second round, but that's another story. But I don't know. It's just a very Neil Magny-esque fight. He won the first round. I thought he lost the second. And you could tell towards the end of the second round, Rocco Martin was really starting to gas a little bit. He was letting the foot off the brake, and then bang, there comes that Neil Magny pressure. He's taking big breaths. Fight was in the bag in the third round. Rocco Martin didn't fight back at all. Honestly, that was a Neil Magny third round. He's unlimited cardio. He pushes the pace, and you know what he's doing. He's vet savvy, dude. It's just the kind of fighter he is. It's exactly what he did against who he fight Li Jiang. He knows Jiang can crack. He started to wrestle him. He's a savvy vet. Chris,
You just said his name way better than Cormier did on the broadcast. He was like, "Oh, Magny coming off the win against Li Jiang Ling Ling Ling," and he was like, he was dying at how badly he butchered that. I love DC on the broadcast. He is the man, and he's so smart. He's so funny. It's just like he's perfect for it. But that was a classic Magny performance. He's low key. I think he's won now 4 of his last 5. He got brutally KO'd by Ponzinibbio, but other than that, I think he's won 4 or 5. So, I mean, talk about gatekeeper. I mean, there's Magny for you. I think they were trying to get Rocco over with him, but that clearly didn't happen. So I wonder who they're going to give him next. I think that I could definitely see Neil Magny losing his next fight because someone good is going to get Neil Magny. You know what I mean? But
I think the UFC matchmakers are like, listen, all right, we got to get Magny out of the picture. Like we got to give him an opponent that's going to beat him. Like maybe a close match, but something to boost one of our prospects at 170 because Magny's not somebody they want to push. I mean, he's good, great cardio, but he'll never be anything than a top 10. And I hate to say that. I hate harping on guys that are doing well. I really do.
Yeah.
Go ahead,
yeah,
man.
Sorry. Yeah, I was just going to say that because I have the rankings up. They actually tossed him in the top 15 this week. So there you go.
Yeah.
His last 3 fights, his last 3 fights, I think they want him to lose. Ponzinibbio, Li Jing Ling Ling, and Rocco Martin. They want him to lose all 3, and he only lost to Ponzinibbio. So I think his next fight, it's here we go. Magny's going to get that step up in competition, probably get brutally knocked out, and back to the top 15. You know what I mean?
Yeah, we shall see. And hopefully,
I could see him fighting if he didn't just win 3 in a row. I think it'd be a rather entertaining fight. Just because the pace they both push and the grappling, Chiesa. But that's a huge step up. I think Chiesa is like 12 in the rankings right now, maybe higher.
No,
that division's just so crowded, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would be a great matchup, especially because they're both, good grapplers. I actually forgot Chiesa even existed. I feel like I haven't seen him.
Won his last 3.
Yeah, no, he's doing great ever since he hopped up to 170. A lot of credit in the world to him. So we'll see who Magny fights next, and I'm sure that we'll all probably be fading him unless it's somebody who's like really, low on the totem pole. But I'm assuming the matchmakers are trying to get him to lose. But next up, we had an absolutely dominant, not even close. Aljamain Sterling, the boa constrictor that he is, just took Corey Sandhagen's back in the first round. And basically it looked like a white belt versus a black belt on the white belt's first day of there. And then right now for the people listening to audio, Chris is holding up a picture of him next to Sterling. They met at Madison Square Garden a couple of years ago. This is before during his rise. So yeah, all the credit in the world to him. He absolutely soundly beat Corey Sandhagen, who I was very high on. Matt, what do you think?
Dude, there's levels to this shit, and Sterling put that on display, man. He needs to fight for the belt next. I throw that Jose Aldo fight out the window. Let him fight for the belt, man. He deserves it. I'm not being biased because I met him and I'm viciously scrolling to look for the picture now, but he's the man. I've been a fan of, there you go, Cody Garbrandt shirt and all. I've been a fan of him for a minute, and I really want to see him get his chance. I know he's going to have to wait because they have a title shot lined up, but right now I don't think there's anybody, in my opinion, that's I'd have to really look, but he's up there in terms of like across all weight divisions, guys that are like deserve a title shot based off of merit, not just getting pumped up by the media. Chris?
So, yeah, I was super high on Aljo going into it. I was torn because, I mean, it was almost MMA fan common sense that this was going to be the most competitive fight on the whole card, and it ended up being one of the least competitive fights on the card. And in hindsight, not that I'm like, oh, I saw it happening. Like, I picked Aljo. I was riding for Aljo. I fanboy out for Aljo. But I think he's coming into his own, man. He came to the UFC. He was undefeated, huge prospect, stumbled a little bit. And now every single fight, he's just getting better and better and better and better. And now he looks prime, dude. Like, honestly, I wish they scrapped Aldo and just put him versus Jan for the belt. I think he's way more deserving than Jan. He's way more deserving than Aldo. Corey Sandhagen, he's got to go back to the drawing board a little bit because he, like I was saying on the last podcast, he's like rubber on the ground. But the problem is that he's always – he's like rubber because he kind of seems to always be in bad positions that he can work his way out of. Where, again, against someone like Aljo, when you're dry in the first round, you're not going anywhere, dude. And that was put on blast. So, Aljo, more props to you. Like Matt was just saying, there's literally no one – I can't think of anyone in the UFC right now more deserving a title shot than Aljo. So, I hope he gets it, man.
Yeah, and 5-0 in his last 5 performances. He hasn't lost a round. He's either finished the guy or soundly beat them 30-27 across the board. So, like, I mean, especially somebody like Pedro Munoz, who I'm like really high on. I think he's going to beat Frankie Edgar, but that's a different fight for a different podcast. But Pedro Munoz, that win is what really put me on board with him. Like, I bet on Aljo in that fight, and then he just like beat Pedro Munoz soundly. And then he comes in here and beats Sandhagen. I mean, how can you deny the guy? I mean, I know he's not the most hype guy in the UFC, but like, you can build off, man. He's got the look, he's got the personality, man. He's got the whole package. UFC's just got to back him, and now they finally should. Like, as soon as Aldo loses to Peter Yan, hopefully the fight never materializes, but hopefully that's the outcome. And then when Yan goes in there against Aljo, I'm putting the money on Aljo, man, because he's going to be a dog, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, and back in like 2016, I think whenever Dillashaw held the belt the first time before he lost it to Cruz and then got it back, whatever. I remember Aljo tweeting and I was going not back and forth, but in a positive way with him on Twitter, saying like Aljo's on the come up. I didn't think he was ready just yet, but again, he's from New York, so I was kind of fanboying out for him. But I think that would have been a bad situation if Aljo fought TJ when he was undefeated. You know, he was coming off the gold chain and he thought he was like the shit. He kind of got humbled, and now I think it's proven fact, he's a way better fighter than he was before he got knocked out by Marlon. And that was a switch kick that Aljo walked into. I would love to see that rematch, down the line. I'm sure we will, because I know Luke Thomas was saying he talked to he never said the name, but he said that many high-level coaches have told him that Aljo was the dark horse of that division. Aljo was the guy to beat Cejudo, and he's so high on Aljo. And, I mean, obviously Cejudo's gone now, but I would love to see Aljo fighting the cream of the crop now, and I'm pumped for it, man.
Especially against Marlon Gas Tank Moraes, because you get out of that – he gets out of that first round. He doesn't even get head kicked. You don't know where that fight could go. We've seen Marlon fold more than once. So I would love to see that fight run back too. But in my opinion right now, Aljo, do not take another fight. It's your turn. You're next. Don't even risk it.
Yeah, I agree. And if you look back at that Marlon Moraes KO loss, it was like a kind of an accidental KO because Aljamain got hit with that knee. But, Marlon was going for a regular high kick, and then he walked right into the knee. It was like a freak knockout. I mean, not taking away from Moraes. He's a freak in nature when it comes to striking. But like you said, Matt, it could have been a totally different fight had that not happened, especially because Moraes' gas tank has proven to be suspect. But on to the co-main event, Cody Garbrandt. All of us had him to win, and he did just that. He knocks out Rafael Assunção with a swinging from the bleachers, swinging from the hips, kind of knockout, and Assunção at this point, peace. And Cody Garbrandt back in the mix, baby. Let's go, Matt.
Nobody is more hyped than me about that win, baby. I had to sit through.
I got poked by Matt's dick. Oh my god!
I had to sit through Chris and MSG when TJ knocked him out. I had to sit through him getting knocked out by TJ again. I had to sit through Pedro cleaning his clock. Yo, I needed that so bad. I'm such a Cody fan. I was so hyped. But talk about throwing. He looked crisp like way before that. That fight wasn't close at any point. But dude, he was looking at the ground when he was loading that punch. He wasn't even looking at Sun South. He was looking at the ground. His fist was by his kneecap, and he threw it from the bleachers. Walk off, buzzer beater KO. Next up, Cody's back. The Mark Henry difference was visible to me immediately. You could even tell, like when they played that punch back, all those wild Cody haymakers you saw against TJ, against Pedro, where's his other hand? It's down by his hip. Where was it when he threw that? Right next to his chin. I'm telling you, man, Mark Henry's a wizard, and I really think that as long as his chin holds up and he doesn't get into these firefights again, we're going to see him rise back up again quick. A lot of fan bias there, but I'm hoping. Chris, what do you think?
Just to play devil's advocate, the one thing, just everything you said 100% true. That was like one of the best walk-off KOs I've ever seen. He knew as soon as it landed that it was over. But like I said, to play devil's advocate, the only thing is when he ducked like that, like remember DC was showing that Cody's eyes never left the target, which was like great. That's what you want. When they both threw that right hand, Sunsal's missed, but crossed the center line way before Cody's did. So it came like here kind of, but that's still Cody's detriment is like when he's throwing and he's throwing like that, he literally was holding the fence and threw that right hand. So like when he lost to Dillashaw the second time, Dillashaw landed that same right hand 3 times on Cody, whereas he's still throwing from his fucking hip. And if someone with more power than the Sun South throws that and it lands, I mean, I'm just totally playing devil's advocate here. He looked good. If anything, he looked way more defensive than usual. Like when you said the fight wasn't close at all, I don't think it was. Like Cody won the first round, clearly won the second round, and then the fight ended in the second round. But it was weird to see Cody was backing up more than he was coming forward. You know, so it's like not because I'm saying he's too defensive. I'm totally playing devil's advocate here, just because.
I completely agree.
He looked really good. And
Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Go ahead. I thought you
no, it's all good. There was. I would love to I wonder where he goes from here. Like, I mean, he's right back there with that name. He's right back in the friggin', like, I think you said he went up 4 spots. So he's got to fight like right. He's going to one more fight. And if Cody wins his next fight, he's probably fighting for the title. Let's be honest. So good for him.
What I was going to say was I know exactly what you're talking about because there was a point actually in that second round. I'm like, he's winning this fight, but he doesn't really have much volume right now. He was being very defensive. He was on his back foot more than he was on his front foot. I was like, this Cody is different, but I'm not liking the volume right now because you don't want something to happen at the end of this round where a Sun South steals the round. Like he's winning the round, but anything can happen. But, walk-off KO, that's all she wrote. Mike?
The thing I was happy about was that, I mean, when you get knocked out 3 times in a row, it's very, 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 very easy to come back in and be gun shy. And Cody, although he was defensive, he was not gun shy. You don't throw that punch that you knock the Sun out being gun shy. You know what I mean? Cody's a warrior. He goes out on his shield. That's the way he's going to go out. And it's good to see him, especially now that he's going to have that confidence back. He's still got that right hand. He's so fast. I cannot wait for his next fight, dude. He's a savage. I can't wait. Yeah. 135 is the most exciting division in the UFC. It's the new 155.
Perfect matchmaking on the UFC's end. Rafael Sansa was the perfect match for Cody Garbrandt to not only for him to win, but for him to beat a guy who's a perennial top 5 contender, put him right back into the mix. Now, this is when things get hairy. I think the UFC still needs to be careful against who they match him up against because now you have to give him a top 5 guy, and the UFC most likely wants to push him, so they have to give him a top 5 guy that he can beat. And granted, Cody can beat anybody on any given day because he has that kind of talent. But, I mean, who do you put him up against? Do you put him up against a power puncher? Do you put him up against a wrestler? Do you put him up against an amazing grappler? Like, this next matchup is going to be very difficult for the UFC, and I'm eager to see how it plays out.
Sandhagen?
I have the rankings up in front of me because Cody's at 5 now. And if you look at, he's not going to take anything past 5 unless he wants revenge against Munoz. Then after that's a wash. He's not fighting Jimmy Rivera. He's not fighting Cody Stammen, and then the rest is history. So top 5, I mean, Jan's book with Jose Aldo, Sandhagen. I mean, if he wants to get back in the mix nice and quick. But besides that, you're looking at Moraes. Moraes isn't booked, is he?
Say it again?
I said Moraes isn't booked, is he?
I don't think Marlon Moraes is booked.
No.
No.
He was supposed to fight Jan, and that got canceled like twice.
Yeah, so it's either him or Corey.
Or he could fight the loser of the title fight.
True. Oh my God, if it's Jose,
That would be, either way, that works.
Yeah. All right, boys. Are we ready for this main event where Amanda Nunes soundly goes all 5 rounds and just slowly eats away at Felicia Spencer's soul? I mean, props to Felicia for being as tough as she is, but the amount of damage she took is just like, you can't take that kind of damage for your entire career. And she seems to be a punching bag against these women fighters who just have a superior striking. I guess Nunes just proves why she's still the GOAT. She defended both belts, first woman to ever do that. Matt, what do you got to say, brother?
Just give the people what they want. Nunes, Shevchenko 2. That's all I want to see. Like 3, sorry. I don't want to. There's nothing else to book. Like, she should have ended that fight. I almost felt like she was toying with her. She should have ended that fight. Granted, I had the under, but she should have ended that fight. Chris?
I cannot believe that there was only one 10-8 round, right? Only one judge gave her a 10-8 round? Like, dude, come on. That was a beating. That like never was that fight close. I thought she was gonna like. I know Spencer's tough as fuck. She went 3 rounds though with Cyborg, and then going 5 with Nunes. In the first round, a minute in, Amanda Nunes threw an overhand right that just rang Felicia's bell, and I was like, damn, she's stuck right in there. She kind of ate it well. And after that, I was like, oh, this fight's gonna end in like the 3rd, 4th round. Again, I know we've talked about this on this podcast. People are like, again, it seems like every card now, oh, I can't believe her corner let her out for the 5th round. It's like, dude, the next day she's walking her dog down the fucking street, totally fine. Like, I'm not saying, oh, fuck their safety, you know what I mean? Fuck fighters' health. I love, they're my fucking idols out here, but she's tough, but it just seems like against the highest level competition, she is like a punching bag. She's almost too tough for her own good, you know what I mean? So I wonder where she goes from here, because it seems like this reminds me of Joanna and Claudia, where it's like Nunes is here, Felicia Spencer's, a number 2, especially at 145. Like, where do you go from here? Who is she going to fight? And I saw Holly Holm just got booked, so I don't know who she fights next.
I just think, like everyone's saying, I think it was Irene Aldana was someone that they threw out there, but there's really nobody, and I mean nobody, who's even remotely on her level. And so I don't think the UFC is obviously going to create matches for her, whether it's at 135 or 145. But at this point, I don't see anybody. Megan Anderson can go, suck on an egg. She's not going to beat Amanda Nunes. Matt, you got anything?
Dude, like, I have the rankings up in front of me, and no offense to anybody that's in the top 15, who wants to see any of this? If I see Holly Holm fight for another title, I'm done. Let's just get that.
No, Aldana's fighting Holly Holm.
Okay, I thought you were saying. Okay, I misunderstood you. But regardless, I'm saying she's 2, Aspen Ladd's 3, Durandamey's 1, Julian. Like, who is Amanda Nunes really going to fight? I really think they need to do a super fight and, mix up the weight classes here a bit and book her. If you even looking at flyweight, like after, Jessica I's 1, Chikagian's 2. Like, there's such a talent gap in my opinion between Shevchenko and Amanda Nunes and everybody else. I really think the only matchup that makes sense is I know that Nunes has won the first 2 fights. The second one, I thought Shevchenko won. It was a split decision. I think Shevchenko is come such a long way since that fight. She looks like the most technical fighter in the UFC right now, in my opinion. I think it's the only fight worth booking. Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong, but, it's just my opinion.
All right, boys. Are we ready to break down this upcoming subpar event? So, for those of you listening, we're gonna touch every fight on this card, but some of them are just we're gonna break down very, 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 very quickly. We might just make a quick pick and then just move on to the next one, because it's either a newcomer that we know nothing about, or it's like a flyweight woman that no one's ever heard of, or in her picture on the UFC website is like a selfie that she took in the mirror. Like these people we need to see more of before we make breakdowns. So if you're looking for an intense breakdown of, let's say, for example, Mariah Agapova and Hannah Cyphers, you can go to another podcast because we're just going to make a quick pick. But with that being said, let's go right into the first. Like, for example, this very first fight on the card is two new UFC comers. We got Anthony Ivy at -190 going against Christian Aguilera. I'm going to go with the favorite. I did a little bit of tape study, but I'm just going to go with Anthony Ivy. He seems like a more well-rounded guy, and I'm going to go with the odds makers on this one. Matt?
I'm going to just go with the plus money at 165 with Christian Aguilera. They're two newcomers, man. Anything could happen. I'm not going to act like I know what's going on. Christian Aguilera plus 165. Chris?
I'm going Anthony Ivy, like Mike said. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you, what I read on SureDog and Tapology this morning is what I'm basing my pick on, so I'm going with Anthony Ivy.
Yeah, I mean, one thing Anthony Ivy has to his credit, all his wins, 8 wins, 8-2. All his wins are via finish, both submission and KOs. So pretty evenly, actually, 5 KOs, 3 subs. And I watched Christian Aguilera. He looks like a guy that, he's okay, very subpar guy. So I'm just going to go with the favorite here. Hopefully he gets a quick knockout to start off the night. Up next, we got Jordan, low fight IQ, Griffin going against Derek, even less fight IQ, Minner. And right off the bat, I'm just going to go with the person has a little bit more fight IQ with Jordan Griffin. He's tough. He'll always fight for his money. Just hope he doesn't wind up on the bottom and be content off his back like he does sometimes. Matt?
Yeah, I'm going with Derek Minner too. I remember Jordan Griffin actually almost burned me really bad the last time out. He was getting his break speed off and he pulled out that win. And I remember Minner's last fight, and I do remember just in general, I think a lot of his losses are by sub, and that seems to be the only way that Griffin wins. So I'm going with Jordan Griffin as well. He's actually lost to Jordan Griffin already. Huh, that's interesting. Armbar. Let's hope that happens again. Chris?
That is exactly what I was basing my pick off of. I was just going to say that. It's already happened once, so I'm just looking for the repeat on this one.
Yeah, the funny thing about Minner is like he's got a quick, crazy, slick guillotine, and I think like a bunch of his wins are guillotine. But then at the end of the day, I'm pretty sure out of his 11 losses, I'm pretty sure like 9 of them are from submission. So like you're going out there and you have like 20 of your 24 wins are submission, but then 9 of your 11 losses are submission. It's like, pick your strong suit, bro. Like you look. Like, how do you do that? How do you go 24-11 and the majority of your wins are subs and the majority of your losses are subs? It's just a strange thing. I'm just going off the toughness of Griffin to just pull this one out. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, dude, that's what you're getting on a card where Cynthia Calvillo and Jessica I are headlining it, and you're the second fight on the prelims. You know what I mean? So I didn't put too much stock into this one. I'm just going, like you said, Jordan Griffin's tough. I'm riding with him.
That's it, baby. And on this next one, I hope we can just make a quick pick here because we've got Tyson Nam, who's 0-2 in the UFC, punches really slow, going against a UFC newcomer. It was supposed to be Ryan Benoit, but he dropped out last minute. It's his newcomer. He's 3-1. His name is Zaruk Adashev, and I apologize if I butcher the name, but like I did with the Tim Elliott versus Brandon Royval fight a couple weeks ago, I'm going with the underdog, Adashev. I don't know anything about him, but I'm just counting on the fact that Tyson Nam, he's 36, 18-11. He's not getting any better. He punches slow. I'm just going to go with the newcomer for plus money at 125. Fuck it. Go ahead, Matt.
I wish I had the same odds as you. For some reason, mine are even. I'm actually going to looks like we're fading each other a lot here. I'm going to go Nam. And the only reason is, even though he lost both these fights, he's seen Kai Kara France, he's seen Sergio Pettis. Those are some pretty stiff competition. He lost, managed to go to decision. So I'm going to base it off that and say how short notice is this fight for, I'm not going to try to say his name.
Days.
A
couple days.
Yeah. I'm going to go Tyson Nam.
I was going to say a week probably total.
Okay, yeah. I'm going to go Tyson Nam. Chris?
I'm going to go with Mike here too. I think that the newcomer, I'm not going to try to pronounce his name. I'm not going to act like I know who he is. I read about him today. I found out that he speaks 5 languages, which is a fun fact. He won a lottery to win a green card to be a U.S. citizen so that he can fight on these type of fights. And I know he's like Mike said, Tyson Nam is super slow. And I'm not – how do you say his name, Mike? Say it again for me.
I think it's Zaruk Adashev.
Adashev. He's from what I was reading about him, he's a pretty good kickboxer, and I think he's got like 20 kickboxing wins. So I could see him kind of picking Tyson down hard on the feet, and that's what I'm going with here.
All right, I feel you on that. Next up, we got I think that maybe the biggest favorite on the card, Julia Avila, or one of the biggest favorites, going up against Gina Mazzani, who, if you look her up on Tapology, her picture is her doing a selfie in the mirror. So that's my point, being that this card is as low as it can get. I'm just going to go with the favorite here, Julia Avila. And if I'm going to do a bet, I'm probably just going to do it inside the distance prop because she's just a massive favorite. What do you think, Matt?
I'll probably take the full line on Avila because I have a problem. Chris?
I am going to Avila as well. I mean, biggest favorite on the card by a country mile. I saw odds today that put her at like a 90% chance to win. So, I mean, what more could I say?
And that's a wrap for that one. All right, this next fight is actually kind of interesting. Both guys coming off losses. Both guys are really no names. We got Charles Boston Strong Rosa, who is coming off a loss to Bryce Mitchell, in which he got soundly out-grappled, almost embarrassingly, going against Kevin, the Angel of Death, or Kiss of Death, Aguilar, who just is coming off a loss as well to the guy, I think that Khabib's boy, that I can't remember his name, but he got TKO'd in that fight. I'm just going to go with Aguilar. He's got better stand-up. I think Charles' stand-up is like pretty atrocious. And if Charles can't get it to the ground, Aguilar's got pretty good takedown defense. I think he just pop and move for the whole time, get a 3-round decision. And at -1, I think he's like -167. I'll take it. He's going to be my pick. Matt?
Yeah, I'm going Aguilar here as well. From what I remember, he hits pretty hard. And this is becoming a very interesting theme in the UFC lately, is these guys that are fighting almost every other week. And you almost got to start wondering what toll it's taking on them, if they're just consistently staying on weight, if they have to keep cutting. So I don't know. I don't know how I feel about betting a guy that literally just fought. I think it was like 3 weeks ago or something like that. So I'm going to go, regardless, I would have went Aguilar. That's not influencing my decision as much as I'm making it seem. But, yeah, I'm going to go Aguilar. Ross said really doesn't offer much in the stand-up. Aguilar can kind of crack. Yeah, Chris, what do you think?
Yeah, I agree with you guys on this one. Charles Rosa just fought 3 weeks. So the one thing, to play devil's advocate against my own pick, I think that Rosa was just obviously in fight shape. He fought 3 weeks ago. So I think he's trying to get back on the horse here and kind of like erase that loss from his mind, because he got, I would say, embarrassed by Bryce Mitchell. I would go as far as to say embarrassed. So I think he's just trying to get back on the horse here, but I'm definitely going to fade him as well.
Yeah, so we're all unanimous on this one, just strictly because we think Aguilar's got better stand-up and keep the fight on the feet. Charles just throws weird. He throws like, I don't want to compare him to Dominic Cruz, but he's got that like really unorthodox striking that I guess kind of works for him, but I'm not going to put any stock into him. I can see that. See him getting his walking papers soon. Next up, we have Hannah Cyphers, who, again, rebounding really quickly after an embarrassing outing against Mackenzie Dern. Going up against Mariah Agapova, who's again a pretty sizable favorite, if I'm not mistaken, -300 something. And I'm just going to go with the favorite here. I think Hannah Cyphers is just so, meat and tomatoes, middle of the pack, no head movement. She's tough, but at the end of the day, she's not going to become anything special. I think the UFC is trying to promote this Mariah girl a little bit, and I'm just going to go with the favorite, Matt.
Mike, you said you have her at 300 right now?
I think Mariah is like a -300 or something like that. She's like a big favorite over Cyphers, if I'm not mistaken.
It might have opened. It's down to actually 245, which if your original price was right, you're getting a good price on a girl that I guarantee is going to win. That's right in the sweet spot. That's a good parlay piece too, in my opinion. You'll juice the parlay a little bit. It's not as bad as a -500 favorite like Avila. Yeah, I think she's going to win as well. Again, Hannah Cyphers just got her break speed off. Yeah. Chris?
I could be wrong because I could be hearing you wrong, but Mike, I think you might have said meat and tomatoes.
I might have said meat and tomatoes. It's possible.
So, but I was gonna. The reason I was listening intently is I was going to say that, to quote you, that Hannah Cyphers is just meat and I guess tomatoes, but she is just everywhere. You know what I mean? So this Mariah girl really seems like trying to promote her. I know she's coming straight from Victor. I think she's like 8 or 9-1. And again, the one thing, play devil's advocate, Hannah Cyphers just fought. I think she lost in the first round. She basically took no damage. I mean, she got leg locked her knee guard real fast. So I mean, she's just trying to jump back on that pony. But yeah, I'm fading her. So
yeah, I think we all are fading her here. Like you said, Matt, I think she's definitely a good parlay piece here. I'm definitely going to stick her with somebody at some point. But then again, I'm not touching this card. Maybe 2 or 3 guys like I'm confident in, but it's not a card I'm really interested in betting heavily like usual. But up next we have Jordan Espinoza going up against Mark De La Rosa. And I just right off the bat, I think Mark De La Rosa, he's coming off a 3, maybe even a 4-fight skid. He just got knocked out in his last fight. Yeah, 3-fight skid. He just got knocked out in his last fight. And it was a bad one. It was one of those, like, he got cracked and, like, he was out of it. So, and Jordan Espinoza is, like, he's quicker. His ground game maybe not that good because he did get submitted by Alex Perez, if I'm not mistaken. So I think Jordan just has that low fight IQ, and he's another guy that's never going to really become anything special. But I think Mark De La Rosa is like even farther down than that, and he's going to be on his way out. What do you think, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, this is a hard fight to pick, and the odds really aren't doing you any justice here because Jordan Espinoza is a guy that's coming off a 2-fight skid as well, and pretty sizable favorite. If I was an odds maker, I think these odds should be a little bit closer to even, just based off of their history. But I think I'm going to go Jordan Espinoza here. Losing to Alex Perez in the grappling department it's nothing to be ashamed of. But Mark De La Rosa you're actually really high in what's his name, right? Paiva, if that's how you say his name.
I was really big on Paiva.
Yeah, I remember because that was one of our first podcasts. You were talking him up. He put his lights out. Yeah, I think I'm going to go Jordan Espinoza as well. From what I've watched, I think he just has more ways to win the fight. I think he's a little bit quicker. And if I'm not mistaken, I'd have to double check this. I think he is a little bit longer and just bigger in general too. I would like to throw an underdog in here, but I'm going to go Espinoza. What do you think, Chris?
I have Espinoza as well on this one. I think he's on a 2. I don't know if one of you guys said this right. I might be deaf again, but he's on a 2-fight skid, right? And De La Rosa on a 3-fight skid. So they're kind of both, not I'm saying fighting for their UFC contract, but it's not looking too good for either one of them at this moment. And I think Jordan Espinoza is just a little bit better. You know what I mean? And losing Alex Perez again, nothing. It's not a bad thing. You can't really take that away from you other than, again, more octagon experience. But I'm going to ride with Espinoza on this one as well.
I don't want to sway anybody's decision, but one of Jordan Espinoza's 2 losses was to Matt Schnell. So,
I mean,
yeah, I saw that actually. I read that. I was like, wow.
When Schnell's not getting knocked out with his shitty chin that he has, he's good. That's just his huge downfall. Matt Schnell is solid all around, just no chin, man. That's going to be his detriment.
Legitimately no chin. His chin is made of glass.
Yeah, it's bad. But I think we're all going to be excited for this next matchup. I know I am. I've been scouting this one out for a while. I've always been looking out for Charles Jourdain. He really impressed me when he fought Desmond Green. It was really short notice, and he was like a monumental underdog. I think Desmond Green was like a -400, but then Charles Jourdain goes out there and he looks like a plus 150, and he put it on Desmond Green throughout that fight, and then he goes out there and then he knocks out the Korean Superboy, like KOs him. And then this was after he the Superboy was kind of like exposed. I think he got Cub Swanson kind of took his soul, and then he went out and fought Charles Jourdain, and Jourdain just like clipped him, and it was over. So right off the bat, I'm just going to tell you right now, his opponent is Andre Fili. I'm going with Charles Jourdain at plus 185. I think he's something special. And I love Fili. I absolutely love Fili. I'm sorry I'm going off on a tangent here, boys, but I got a lot to say about this one. Andre Fili is the boy. I was on him against Sodiq Yusuff. I was on him against Shayman Moraes, and I hate to go against him here, but I really do think for the podcast and for money-making purposes, I think Charles Jourdain is going to show up, man. If you watched his previous fights on the regional circuit, man, he was going 5 rounds with people and like really intense, grappling heavily, striking bouts, and he looked so good for all 5 rounds, and he finishes almost everybody he fights. If I'm not mistaken, I don't think he went to decision in any of his wins. all finishes. This guy comes to fight, and Feely's always game. You know that. Feely's been a veteran. He has like I said, close fight with Yusuf, Michael Johnson, Miles Jury, Shaman Mariah's knockout was insane. He's still young at 29 years old. He's a team alpha male stud. You know, everybody loves him there. He calls people sir. You know, he's a really nice kid. But I'm just gonna pick Charles Jourdain for I think he's going to win, and I think after this fight, I think there might be a little push on him. I really do, Matt.
So I think that Charles Jourdain is going to very quickly get on my shit list because that Doo Ho Choi fight put me in a pretty sizable hole. I was not expecting that. I'm pretty sure Doo Ho dropped him a couple times in that first round too. I thought I was smooth sailing a victory, then schwap, lights out. That was pretty much it. I really don't want to fade him here because, Mike, I couldn't agree more with everything you're saying. But I think we've also seen an evolution, a revolution, whatever the right word is, behind Feely, where he used to be very wild, swinging for the fences. And now every time I watch him, he just seems a lot more technical. He works behind his jab very well. He picks his spots. And, you know, coming from Team Alpha Male, you know that they can wrestle, man. So I don't know. You're talking about a guy in Jourdain that's wild. He can finish the fight anywhere. He's unpredictable. Then you're talking about a guy that we've watched evolve in front of our own two fucking six eyes, whatever it is. Even though he's lost to a lot of guys, like, you know, he's lost to the Yairs, the Caters, the Michael Johnsons, but he's also been in a cage with guys like that. He's been in a cage with Max Holloway. So it's really hard. I get where you're coming from, and I really want to take the plus odds, but Feely's a big win one, lose one fighter. He lost his last one, so I'm going to say he wins this one, and I'm going to ride with Feely on this one. Chris?
I'm going with Feely right off the bat. I knew Mike was picking Jourdain. Like, he's been super high on him for a long time. So I'd be pumped if Mike's right, because you've seen him, you know, kind of like evolve. But I think Feely has been evolving like crazy right now. He's old in MMA years. He's only 29 years old, but it seems like he's been around forever, and he grew up in the UFC. So if Jourdain wins, more like hats off to him. You know what I mean? But I think Feely's coming to his own right now. He just lost to Yusuf in a fight that was a close fight. I think, you know, he won one or two. I thought it was gonna be a split decision. It was a unanimous decision. In his last fight, before that, I think was it Shaman Mariah? He won Performance of the Night in Sacktown, in his hometown. Awesome performance. He showed out. And I could see him doing that again. Like you said, I think it'll be a tough test. I could totally see it going to a decision. But like Matt was saying, Feely, you know, with that alpha male wrestling and cardio, I just see him outlasting Jourdain here. But I would be happy if I'm wrong. But I am a huge Feely fan. So obviously it's a fan in me picking Feely. And I do think that he's coming to his own right now. So I'm going with Feely on this.
Just for betting purposes, real quick, guys, if I were you, I have a feeling it's going to be set at 1.5. But even if it is, check the odds, like plus minus what you're getting on it. But if this fight is over set to 2.5, I'm taking that under all day. I think these guys are going to – I think someone's going to get tagged. That's just my feeling. I would even take it at 1.5 if you're getting plus money on it. That might be – if you're siding with Feely, your better money might be with the under if you're getting plus odds. Mike?
I feel you on that. And let me just make this abundantly clear. I love Feely. Like I said, I was with him against Shaman Mariah. I was with him against Yusuf. And if you watch that Yusuf fight, that third round was all Feely. And you know how I am. I love when fighters finish fights strong. Even if they lose those first 2 rounds, if they win that third round impressively, I'm a fan, and I put my stock into that. I just think Charles Jourdain, I think he's going to keep up with them in the cardio. We saw him get taken down by Desmond Green. He's a great scrambler, great up at getting back to the feet. I think it's going to be so close, and I think the odds should be a lot closer, and we're going to find out if the odds should be closer come Saturday. So if there's one fight I'm really excited for, it's definitely going to be this one, and I'll definitely be watching this one. I can't guarantee I'll watch every single one, but some of them are a little bit whack, but I'll definitely be watching this one with heavy stock into this one. Up next, great bout. Well, I mean, you can make the argument that it's a little lopsided, but we got Merab Dvalishvili. I think he's sitting around a pretty sizable, like minus 400 favorite, going up against the ever active Ray Borg, who just seems to just take these fights that are really bad matchups for him. What do you think, Matt?
Again, this goes back to the what's it called? I don't even remember what fight it was at this point. Whoever I referenced, Rosa. I feel like I'm seeing Borg every week now. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. In this fight, though, I mean, I want to take Merab, but it's also, you look at it, you're like, how often do you see Ray Borg plus 335 unless he's fighting DJ for the title? It's weird seeing a guy, household name, such big odds, but you know exactly what he's going to do. He's going to be in the pocket, and he's going to be shooting for takedowns. He's going to want to grapple. He's going to want to scrambling this whole fight, and I just don't think Merab's the guy to do that with. And Merab's definitely going to be bigger. I mean, who isn't bigger than Ray Borg? But, I don't know. If I'm up on this card, I will put money on Borg. But from a podcast pick, I don't want to lead our viewers wrong, listeners, whatever, Merab. I would put him in a parlay, though, just in case. I wouldn't be betting that full line, even though I probably will. Chris?
Like you said, dude, that line is a little aggressive, I think. But because, Merab is, I mean, they're both grapplers, but, man, yeah, those odds are kind of crazy. I'm going with Merab too, obviously. Reason being, he's training with Aljamain Sterling, and I mean, look at Aljamain Sterling. So if you're grappling with Aljamain Sterling on a daily basis, you can definitely hold your own. And Ally Quinta and Aljo and Weidman are so high on Merab. They say he's a savage in the gym, and he doesn't even show it in the octagon. And Al and Weidman were just saying the same thing about Aljamain Sterling. So that Serra-Longo camp over there are doing something right. And I think Merab's definitely going to win the fight. But those odds are a little steep. Like, I wouldn't put money on it. I know Matt's a psychopath, so he's going to. But I definitely think Merab's going to win. But those odds are steep.
I'm glad we're talking about the odds because for example, if we have Ray Borg at plus 330, that's value in and of itself. But honestly, his only path to victory is the kind of Ricky Simone kind of bullshit where he get that set submission. So if we get Ray Borg by finish at like plus 400, plus 500, maybe even more, I'm going to sprinkle something on that. But in terms of Merab, I'm not going to put the money on that. I'm not even going to parlay him. I just want to see the fight go down as how we think it's going to go down. But when it comes to the betting window, I'll sprinkle something on Ray Borg by finish. And I'll be rooting for both guys. I really do like both guys. I don't want to see Ray Borg, go down and out after two dominated performances back to back. But Merab, if he does what he always does, there's a reason why he's that big of a favorite, even though I disagree with it. But if he does what he does in that octagon, we'll be saying, oh yeah, he should be minus 400 favorite. Up next, we have Marvin, the emotional Vettori, going up against Carl Robertson. And this is the third time that this bout was scheduled. And I think Marvin Vettori is going to be coming in here with a lot of emotion. For the viewers and the listeners that don't know, Marvin Vettori got really heated at Carl Robertson in the hotel after Carl dropped out. He was calling him a pussy at least 75 times. And Marvin Vettori is one of those guys who's not afraid of anybody. And that's what I love so much about him. Went to split decision with Adesanya. Right off the bat, I'll tell you right now, I'm picking Vettori, and I'm putting money on him for sure. Matt?
Yeah, after that hotel freak out, he better win this fight. I think he will. I mean, Vettori, I like him a lot. He's Italian, which is huge for me in the UFC, just because how many Italian guys you get in the UFC that can actually fight. But yeah, I think he's going to win this fight. I think there's a reason he's been freaking out that this fight keeps getting canceled. I think he sees something in Robertson, and we've seen Vettori up there against stiff competition. You're going to split against Adesanya. I don't even know what the fucking correct analogy is, but he's no slouch. But Robertson, on the other hand, I mean, I don't even remember the last time I saw him fight. Off the top of your head, you guys know? I know he's on a 2-fight win streak, shockingly, but I don't know who he's beaten.
So I do know that he has a split decision win over Wellington Turman, who I'm really high on. He's like a guy who's just relatively new, a couple wins in the UFC, but his most recent win is Roman Kopylov, who's a newcomer as well. But his win over Wellington Turman was the one that I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty good. But he's got 2 losses to Teixeira and Fajeda, both by arm triangle. So, I mean, Robertson is one of those guys that's just he'll look good, and then sometimes he fights to the level of his opponent and kind of just looks not so good. And you can't really do that against Vettori. Go ahead, Matt.
once upon a time knocked out Ryan Spann in the Contender Series back in 2017. I mean, don't get me wrong. Carl Robertson 100% could finish this fight, but I don't know. I'm going with Marvin Vettori here. I think he's more technical. I think he's less reliant on the big shot as opposed to Robertson. Chris, what do you think?
I'm going Vittori on this one. I'll go as far as to say he's my lock of the night. So before any one of you guys can pick him, I think he's got this one in the bag. He's so handsome and so promotable. Like Matt said, he's Italian. He's got great tattoos. Dude, you got to promote the shit out of him. Like, I think that should be the main event. If they're trying to get, Vittori over, which I think they should be. And like going to what you said, Matt, the two Italians that I could think off the top of my head that are the highest level in the UFC. I mean, I'm probably missing someone clearly, but I think Vittori, Chiesa comes to mind. Who else? Anyone else? I don't know. I'm going off on a tangent, but I'm definitely going Vittori on this one. He went to a split decision, like you said, with Adesanya, and Adesanya was a little bit greener in MMA, but still, he can hold his own. He's got a chin on him, so I'm going with Vittori on this one. Mike's girlfriend's favorite fighter.
Yeah, by the way, that's my girlfriend's favorite fighter. She wishes I was him, and that's okay, because I wish I was him too.
Alessio Di Chirico, if that's how you say his name. He's Italian.
Alessio Sakara, or that's somebody else? Sakara.
No, I think he's a model too.
No, I have no idea.
You would recognize him if you saw him. We've seen him fight 1,000 times.
Yeah, but I want to make a quick note. I know MMA math doesn't add up, but Carl Robertson got submitted by Cesar Ferreira, got pretty much dominated in that fight, arm triangle, and Marvin Vettori kind of just like destroyed Cesar Ferreira. So, I mean, with that being said, I think Vettori is going to come in here with the confidence. I want to see the stare down because I think Vettori is going to get all up in his face, man. It's going to be heated. It's exciting. I think Robertson might come in here a little bit timid because, that altercation in the hotel was like pretty intense. Anybody else have anything to say about that before we get on to this shitty main event?
Keep it moving, baby.
Shitty main event time.
All right, we might spend less time on this one than we did on any other fight on this card because no one cares. We've got Jessica Evil Eye going against Cynthia Calvillo at 125-pound division, going for 5 rounds. Hopefully it goes negative 1 round. I'll just go right off the bat. I don't even know who I want, man. I feel like Cynthia Calvillo is what the UFC wants, but at the end of the day, Jessica Eye is not going to just go down easily. That's why the line is what it is, -110, pick 'em. By the time we go through Matt and Chris's breakdown, by the time we go through their breakdown, I'll come up with a pick. And for the listeners out there, Chris just put up a picture of my face on Marvin Vettori's body. Please send that to me so I could send it to my girlfriend. Matt, go ahead.
I'm going to go Jessica Eye, actually. If Cynthia can't land her takedowns, I think that Eye's definitely better on the feet. I know, Chris with the face. He's making that face because me and Chris were at a UFC event at MSG one time, and I was given a mic to ask Cynthia a question, and I stuttered my ass off. But anyway, I'm gonna fade my UFC crush and go with Jessica Eye in this one. It's crazy. I'm looking at bestfightodds.com right now. Shout out to them. You guys are where I look for to see where the best odds are. If you look across all the sites, there was a point in time where the other fighter was favored, and it's just gone back and forth. So clearly, the odds makers can't make up their mind on this either. So I think they said, "Screw it, make it even, let us decide." I'm gonna go Jessica Eye. Chris, what do you think?
I'm going to go Calvillo on this one for a couple reasons. She's definitely not as good on the feet, but she's got a gas tank, and definitely got better wrestling. So if she could take this to the mat, I could see her taking a big advantage there. Dana White, it was super duper high on her, and I remember him even saying, like, again, he wasn't comparing her to Conor McGregor, but he said she had like that it factor, and he was super high on her, and he doesn't really do that too much. Granted, he just did it with what's her name at Strawweight. What's her name? The 24-year-old girl that just lost to. I think she lost to Roxanne. What's her name? Who am I looking? What the fuck's her name? I'll think of it in a minute. But I think she's just a little bit better. I guess Jessica Eye is a little bit older than her, and just I don't know. This main event sucks ass. I'm just picking Cynthia Calvillo just because of how high they were on her and how high I guess I was on her, and Matt was like stuttering his words over her. So I'm just going to ride with her on this one. I think she could grind out, I guess, a decision, but we'll see. I think she's training at AKA too now, right? She left Alpha Male. I think she's at AKA now. So if that's true also, she's going to come with a grappling heavy game plan and take this one, in my opinion.
Macy Barber, right?
Macy Barber.
Actually, I had Roxanne in that one, shockingly. That was a nice hit.
So did I.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think now that I've listened to both you talk, I'm just going to go with Cynthia because we haven't seen her in a while. We know that, she's the UFC kind of wants her to win. I think that she's tough. She's confident. You know that when she goes in there, she's got that mean grin. She's got that mean attitude that she's going to come after I. But if I can weather that storm, maybe she has a chance at winning. Like she's sound everywhere, but at the end of the day, if she loses this fight, like it's pretty much over for her. She'll never have another run at the title. I'll go with 8-1 Cynthia Calvillo to win. I don't know. Will it go 5 rounds? I hope not. What do you guys think?
Yeah,
I really hope not.
It's going to take in the over. It's going 5 rounds, and I'm switching my pick. Yeah, I'm going Cynthia.
All right. Well, we're on Cynthia here, baby. All right. Well, we recapped last week's card. We broke down this card to the best of our ability, despite the lopsided matchups and the low-level talent on this card. Is there a particular topic you guys want to talk? I know we talked briefly about the topics, but is there one you want to start off with? Go ahead, Matt.
Just want to say real quick on this card, as much as we're ragging on it, this is the type of card. Well, there's guys on this card you'll hear about 2-3 years from now, and you'll look back at all their fights on Wikipedia or whatever, sure dog. You'll be like, oh, he fought this, that, the other thing. These are the guys you got to look out for because there's a reason they're on this card, and this card is loaded with a bunch of guys you really haven't heard of before. It's just one of those cards. You see them every couple times a year, and one of these guys could be fighting not a big name, but a name you'll recognize next. Just because they're a prospect and you haven't heard of them doesn't mean they suck, and it doesn't mean you won't hear about them one day. So if you're a hardcore fan, tune in from the Fight Pass prelims all the way through. And if you're a psychopath like me, start betting on the Anthony Ivy fight. But aside from that, Chris, you mentioned something you wanted to talk about. It was the everything with Jon Jones.
I have a few things. I got a little list.
All right, yeah, go off.
So first of all, Anthony, so announcement. I mean, if you guys haven't heard it yet, viewers, there's a lot of fights have been announced. So Fight Island is Yas Island, Y-A-S, Yas, bitch, Island in Abu Dhabi, which I was surprised about. I don't know how you guys felt. I mean, when I heard Fight Island, I kind of just assumed it was going to be like some island in the Caribbean somewhere, and they were just going to build a fucking cage. I didn't think that there was going to be sharks circling the cage, and Daniel Cormier is going to be sitting on a beach towel and sand announcing the fights. But I didn't think Abu Dhabi would be the place. I mean, it totally makes sense now, knowing that, because there's basically no laws out there. No one gives a fuck. That oil money's paying for the whole thing. So I see why they're doing it now. I don't give a shit about the sanctions out there. You know what I mean? I know I'm probably politically incorrect, but I do not give a shit. I know people are going to cry because, they treat women bad there and the whole nine. The UFC and WWE always get shit for taking fights to the Middle East. But guess what? Like Dana White said, get the fuck off the train if the train keeps moving. So I was a little bit surprised, though. Again, I'm going on a tangent here. But anyway, fights that are announced for it, Usman and Burns, which I think is a weird one. We could go into that. Aldo and Jan, and Volkanovski and Holloway 2. Let's just give real quick, who do you think is going to win each one of those? 1, 2, 3. Who do you guys got?
Yeah, Mike.
All right. So I think that Burns is going to lose. I think it's going to be Usman going to retain his belt. I think Peter Yan is going to win his bout. And what was the third one, Chris?
Holloway.
Volkanovski, Holloway.
All right. I know you guys might not agree with me and aren't happy about this, but I just think Volkanovski soundly beat Holloway last time. Unless Holloway can make some serious adjustments, I think it's going to go down the same way. So I'm going to pick Volkanovski. I don't think he should be a minus 190, which is what I saw today. I think it should be much closer than that. But and with that being said, I think the value is all on Holloway. So if you put money down, I think Holloway's got all the value. But if for the pick, I think I'm just going to pick Volkanovski. I'm a fan. I like him.
Yeah, I'm not going to get too in depth here because I don't want to ruin a future podcast. But I'm definitely going to go Usman. Just think he's too big. We've seen Burns get knocked out at 155. He's fighting a guy that barely makes 170. I'm going Usman. Definitely going to go Jan. And, man, I really don't want to see – it would be Holloway's third loss in a row, right? Dustin Volkanovski.
Dustin, yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to see him lose 3 in a row. I really want to go Holloway. Did he fight somebody in between?
Frankie Edgar, I think he beat after Dustin, right?
Yeah, good call. I don't know. Preliminary pick to be determined another point. Right now I'm going Holloway. Subject to change. Chris?
Same. I'm going Usman. I'm going Holloway as obviously, like Mike was basically saying, as a fan, I'm picking Holloway. And at plus 190, that's crazy. Like the last time I saw Holloway as an underdog was, I think he was a favorite over Poirier, but I think last one was against Ortega. And I was like, this is crazy. So I put money on him and won there. So I'm definitely going to put money on him as an underdog here. Again, we'll go into it at a later time, but I think he's going to change up his strategy a little bit, be more prepared for leg kicks, and he'd use that range, fight from both stances, be more prepared, southpaw, and just get the dub there. And then I want to see this Jan and Aldo fight. I'm really interested to see how that goes, and I want to see the line of that because if Aldo, I don't know if you guys saw the line yet. If he's a juicy underdog, I'm definitely riding with Aldo on that. At plus money, plus money on Holloway and Aldo, I'm going to take it.
I'm actually not to get into this card too much because I don't want to ruin another podcast. But quick odds, these are all going to change, guys. So don't bank on these being the same X amount of weeks from now. Usman minus 190, Burns plus 165. Wow, that's kind of close. Volkanovski, Mike, he's already actually down to minus 175. Aldo's plus 170, Jan's minus 200. And then, there's odds for the rest of the card, but we don't have to get into that. That Jan line's kind of close, man. Minus 2-1, plus 170. I expected a little bit bigger, especially considering that's 5 rounds. But I don't know.
I think that's perfect. That's what I was saying. Like if Aldo was like plus 250, I'd be like, okay, hammer it. Like just cause it's plus money on Aldo. But that's basically where I saw the line at. So another one, and also talking about fights getting announced, DC Stipe, August 15th, baby.
Pick 'em.
That's a trilogy fight.
I'm going Stipe right off. I don't like that DC said he's retiring after.
Nah, I'm on DC.
I love DC. I changed my opinion on him, but I don't like when a fighter's got a foot out the door.
But
I think that.
Go ahead, Chris. Go ahead. You go first.
I think that the first round of their last fight was so not competitive that if DC could stick to that – I'm not saying, go out there with a singlet on and just take Stipe down and you're going to win. But I think that he had a clear wrestling advantage in the first round last time and kind of strayed away from the game plan, almost gave the fight away, not take anything from Stipe, who's a legitimate savage. But I'm riding DC on this one. Is there odds for that, Matt? And then Mike, go ahead.
It's pick 'em right now at minus 110. So you already talked about the game plan. I'm just going, and Matt was talking about like half in the door, half out the retirement door. I'm going off the fact that DC knows that this is his last fight. He wants to ride off in the sunset. He's had plenty of time to just like relax, do his commentating, eat whatever he wants. But we all know he's like one of the most mentally tough people in the world. And when he bunkers down and he gets into fight camp, he's a different beast altogether, man. I think he's going to come out here. UFC has no fairy tale endings, but I hope that he can ride off in the sunset with like a beautiful win over Stipe. I love Stipe. He's a great champ. He's a great guy, saving lives as a fireman. But I just think that like DC, I still think DC's on another level. And it was a bad fourth. I think it was the fourth round when he got clipped with all of his body shots. It was a bad performance on DC's part and a tremendous one on Stipe's. But if he can just correct those mistakes, I think he's just a better fighter than Stipe.
You guys ever scroll down on best fight odds and just go to all the future events and see some of the nonsense that's here, dude? They have Khabib minus 1,000 against Floyd Mayweather Jr. That has to be in an octagon. That has to be in an octagon. That's crazy. Sorry, it's a rabbit hole for sure. Just one interesting one, though. They actually have it's actually not surprising, but Jones is actually an underdog against potential future fights against Ngannou and Stipe. I found that a little interesting. Underdogs in both. I think that's fair, though. Going up a weight class. Yeah.
Talking about what you just brought up Floyd Mayweather. So talking about boxing, Joshua and Fury just signed a 2-fight deal. I guess that's like a rematch. So if someone wins, whatever, they can just go right back at it. But I saw the line on that today. I think Fury's only minus 150. So I'm definitely going to take that line because Anthony Joshua looked like a world beater, but he never fought the elite of the elite. He fought Klitschko. I mean, Klitschko was basically 1,000 years old when he fought him. Fury is just getting better and better. He beat Klitschko. He beat Wilder. He basically beat Wilder twice. Joshua hits nowhere near as hard as Wilder, even though he is a little bit bigger. He's more of a true heavyweight. But I definitely see Fury winning that, if not 2. And I definitely see Fury beating Wilder again in their trilogy fight.
So hypothetically, because I'm not familiar with the terms of this, because obviously, as you mentioned pre-podcast, Wilder has to fight Fury first, right? The fight, so Tyson versus Joshua is happening regardless. Doesn't matter. Okay. I would take Fury in all 3 of those fights, Wilder and both Joshua fights. Even though Joshua just beat, what's his name? Ruiz.
Joshua Andy Ruiz.
Yeah, I watched that fight. I'm sure you did start to finish. For somebody that he's so much bigger than, I wasn't impressed at all. He worked behind his jab for the whole fight, won the fight pretty handedly, but I just wasn't impressed. Not nearly impressed enough to see him fight Fury and be confident in him winning. And even Wilder, I think Wilder would smoke him too. He's ever since that the first fight against Ruiz, I don't know. I mean, he's only fought once since then, but he looks so timid. I just can't see him getting in there against somebody that cracks like Wilder and being okay. But, we'll see.
We shall see. And just to go off, we were just talking briefly about the odds and future bouts. Woodley Burns, that was never really supposed to happen. So let's briefly talk about this, about how Masvidal was supposed to be the person to fight him, but was holding out for more money. Colby Covington is another person that comes to mind, holding out for more money. Jon Jones. But more specifically, I really want to talk about Masvidal because I really think he missed out on a huge opportunity here to fight Usman. And he was claiming he wasn't getting paid enough. He goes, "Oh, I'm a draw, but Usman isn't, so I got to take less money." I remember he tweeted out that specifically, almost verbatim. And I made the argument to you guys a couple of days ago, like, if you're enough of a draw, it doesn't matter who you fight. If you're a draw, you can fight a broomstick and you'll sell. So if you're complaining about how, you want more money to fight Usman, but then Usman's like, all right, fine, I'll go fight Burns. Like, props to Usman for doing that. But I think Masvidal really missed the train here, and I think he put himself in a hole. And I don't know if he's ever going to be – I mean, right now I feel like the best matchup for Masvidal is Conor McGregor. I think Conor McGregor, now's the time to make that fight, because they're both – on the sidelines right now. They'll both get the paycheck that they want, hopefully. Obviously, there's no gate. Everything's up in the air right now. But my point being is I think Masvidal made a huge mistake not taking the fight with Usman based on the fact that he wasn't getting enough money, according to him.
I agree with that 100%. I couldn't agree more, and I really, really wish that the Masvidal fight was happening. And that card's International Fight Week too, right? I just, as a whole, I think it's a huge missed opportunity for him. He could have won the belt. I think he's A-side in that fight. And you're fighting International Fight Week. He's headlining, right? The whole thing to me I get it. You want more money. I don't know, man. I can't sum it up any better than you did. I just think he missed the boat on this one, especially what Dana White's about. You don't like it? Fuck you. Keep moving. There's another guy in line. There's never not going to be another guy in line. I'm always like Tommy Toehold makes fun of it all the time. Dana's like, fuck you in these negotiations, send you location to Bellator. But he doesn't care, dude. People are going to watch these fights regardless. Gilbert Burns just made Tyron Woodley look stupid. It's such a smart move on Dana's part because that's fresh in everybody's memory. So they're like, oh, okay, yeah, Burns deserves that fight. It's fine. We haven't seen Masvidal in a minute. So as a whole, I don't agree with Masvidal did it all. I think he should be that one fighter that weekend. But hey, man, he did it to himself. Chris, what do you think?
I agree with everything you guys are saying. Masvidal, I think, so it was his last fight. It was the BMF belt, and that was in November, right? So, I mean, that's a little while ago. That's a long time ago. Two things why I think Masvidal is missing out here. One, if he was just – all right, so say like Dana White was saying, he's not getting paid less. He's on a contract, right? So if he – just for numbers' sake, he gets paid $200,000 to fight you get paid 200 grand again to fight. So take the 200 grand or whatever the fuck you're getting paid and fight Usman. I'm sure he thinks he's better than Usman. So you fight Usman for the real belt. International Fight Week, no bigger week than that. More eyes on you. If you're the bigger star, you're the A side. You come in, you're wearing your Versace robe, the BMF belt, the whole nine. Hype it up, win the belt, and now you're the champion. Now it's on your terms. Now the way I'm looking at it is, granted, I think Usman's going to win, but if Burns wins for some reason, where does Masvidal go from there? Because then his star power has declined even further, being longer and longer out of the public, off the news, and then he has no heat with Burns. So do you fight Usman for fun? Do you fight Colby at that point? I'm sure at that point McGregor's going to be talking a whole bunch of shit. He'll probably fight Nate Diaz for the third time. So I don't really know. I think it was a stupid move on Masvidal's part. Train keeps moving. So and the longer he's outside of the octagon, the more his star diminishes, and he's not young. He's not, so it's. I don't know. I just think it was a weird move on his part, and Dana made the right call, I guess, putting Burns in there. Although I agree with what Nate Diaz was saying, where Burns really shouldn't be there. But, I mean, I can't take it away from him. Woodley was the number one contender, and he beat the shit out of him. So
another point, too. And I agree with you. Usman would have won that fight. But if Masvidal did win, we all know what would be next. Red fucking panty night, dude. They would all cash out. That I don't have no doubt in my mind that would have been booked. He would have said, fuck you to Colby. He doesn't even like Colby to begin with, I don't think. He would have just been like, all right, Connor, you're next. Done. Everyone wants you to do versus Masvidal. Now I get to book it for the belt at 170. Done. Game over. Nobody would have complained.
Yeah, that's a good point, Matt. That's a very good point. I didn't even think about that, depending on, winning circumstances and whatnot. But, I think he totally missed the boat. Jon Jones crying over here, asking for Deontay Wilder money. Dude, you're not going to get it. I'm sorry. You're not going to get it. And I saw a tweet earlier this morning about, boxing gets an incredible amount of revenue for the high-profile fighters. But, if you look at the undercard fighters, they're getting, $8,000 to fight, $8,000 to show, $8,000 to fight. They're getting paid – chump change, and at least the undercard fighters in the UFC are getting 20, so this will be a fight, this will be a fight for the end of time for combat history about fighters getting more money, especially in the UFC. It's going to go down for the next several years until there's a union, which I really don't see one for a really long time. They tried to do it multiple times. It failed miserably. The one that comes to mind is the Tim Kennedy GSP ran one where they were just so adamant, yeah, we're going to get this done. And I was on board because, if you got GSP and Tim Kennedy running the show here, I believe those guys, and it fell through faster than it was created, So at the end of the day, I think Masvidal made a bad decision, especially with his age and, the hype that was behind him. I think it all kind of diminished at this point, especially if Burns wins, man. You made a good point with that. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, and the other thing is so they want more money, right? And I get, I'm not siding with Dana White and being a UFC simp, but I saw something. So UFC 246, I think for McGregor and Cowboy, there's a $15 million gate. That's just tickets. $15 million from fans just to show up in the arena. That's before concessions and the whole nine. So just say, with concessions and the whole nine, it's another $5 million. It's $20 million that the UFC is not making to give to anyone, even if they kept that, and then fighter pay was a little bit higher because they had more money to give out. You have to make up that. I know if Masvidal's this big draw, he thinks he is. Him and Usman, say they bring a $2 million gate. That's $2 million UFC doesn't have to give out. So not having that gate is detrimental. You know what I mean, to everyone. It's just the UFC is in a hard place right now too. You know what I mean? It's not just the fighters. No layoffs in the UFC, not one layoff in the UFC. That is super impressive alone, you know what I mean? And because Endeavor's in a tough place right now, so UFC being able to do that in general is insane. So Usman and Burns agreed, and that's it.
Yeah, and not to keep ranting about this, but then if you want to draw the comparison across to all other major league sports, which have been around longer, much more established, and they can't even get their fucking season started. Just drawing the comparison shows what a absolute savage Dana White is for keeping this train moving and keeping everybody paid. Everyone in this whole world right now, you got to realize one thing. You just have to weather this storm. This isn't forever. And the way Dana's handling it, as opposed to all these other leagues that can't agree with their players' unions, and the fans are missing out on sports, and not to start talking about baseball, but baseball players are going to lose this season off of their contract. Dana said, fuck all that. We're getting the fights done. I don't care where we go. We're going to go on some island in Abu Dhabi. We're going to pay the fighters. You know, it's to me, it's so impressive. And if there was odds for the first sport that would have been back, it's this one. So going off what Chris said, it couldn't be more true. And you know what, man, there's going to come a day where I do think fighters will end up making more money just because the ESPN deal alone, I think, will dictate that. Do I think it's soon? I think this whole COVID thing might have put a pause on it. Do I think it's going to be substantial to the point where guys fighting on the prelims are multimillionaires? No, that's not why you're fighting on the fucking prelims. But you know, it's going to get there. People got to remember, this sport was a baby when Dana White bought it, bro. It was about to be bankrupt. Rome wasn't built in a day. Just be patient. It's going to happen.
All right. Yeah. With that being said, I think we nailed it, nailed right on the head with everything we just talked about. Is there any particular topics that you guys want to talk about before we close out the show? Throwing it over to Chris.
I think that's all she wrote, boys.
Matt?
I'm good to go.
All right, boys. And just like that, we had outlook seems to be like an hour and a half episode, and we were not planning on going this long because the card was pretty atrocious, but I mean, we can ramble on forever. And I just want to say that me, Matt, and Chris, yeah, we have notes in front of us and stuff, but like at the end of the day, this is a seamless conversation between three hardcore fans that just love the sport and love the progression of the sport. We love the fighters. We support the fighters. We support the UFC. We support every league out there. This is the best sport in the world, and we do this for fun. We don't care if we have one viewer or a million viewers. We thank you for listening. We thank you for watching. Again, we're on YouTube, MMA Gossip. Like, subscribe, share, comment. We're on Apple iTunes. We're on Spotify. Follow us at MMA X Gossip on Instagram. Follow us on MMA X Gossip on Twitter. And with that being said, please show us some love or show us some hate. Any input you have on whatever we do or say, please let us know. We won't take it to heart. Maybe Matt will. He's got his feelings hurt a little bit once in a while, but we love all of you. And with that being said, closing statements, boys. Be well. Love MMA.
Episode 11 in the books.
All right, boys. We love you. See you on the flip side.